We don't get too much insight on the relationship between Jaime Lannister and Rhaegar Targaryen, but it's pretty clear he admired him and wanted a similar reputation as the beloved prince. Jaime was sworn to protect Rhaegar and the rest of the royal family after becoming the youngest Kingsguard member in the story's history. But Rhaegar was more than capable of protecting himself. He was one of the most skilled fighters of his time. Jaime was a fanboy with his eyes wide open when it came to the fighters of this generation. He was only 15 when he was sworn in, joining the ranks of 6 revered and accomplished warriors. Lord Commander Gerald Hightower, the older leader of the Kingsguard with the nickname of the White Bull. There was Sir Barristan Selmy, Jonathan Dory, Oswell Whent, Prince Lewin Martell, and the most deadly man in the realm, Sir Arthur Dayne, who was known as the Sword of the Morning. Jaime was good, but he only just became a knight. The Mad King had his own reason for selecting him for this prestigious honor. King Aerys Targaryen hated and feared his Hand of the King, Tywin Lannister, who was his old childhood friend. Having Jaime so close at all times meant he had a hostage of sorts, and it also meant he could never be heir to Castle Rock, making Tyrion next in line, the ultimate attack on Tywin's pride. Jaime was sworn in during the tourney at Harrenhal with all the great lords and cheering fans in attendance. But to slight his Hand of the King, Aerys forced Jaime to immediately ride to King's Landing to watch over his family instead of having the chance to display his skill. Lord Commander Gerald Hightower tried to step in and help out the young Jaime by offering to go back to King's Landing instead, but he was refused. The Mad King would never let Jaime earn the people's love or glory during the jousts. He was made to constantly stand by his side and do nothing. Rhaegar Targaryen would spark the war that would tear the Seven Kingdoms apart during the tourney in Harrenhal. Rhaegar was able to defeat 4 knights of the Kingsguard in the jousts, including his friend and rival Arthur Dayne, and even the badass Sir Barristan Selmy in the final tilts. He named Lyanna Stark his Queen of Love and Beauty, passing over his wife and the mother of his children, Princess Elia Martell. There was a huge conspiracy theory swirling around, thanks to Varys, that this whole tourney was Rhaegar's idea to gather all the great lords of the realm to discuss if they should remove the Mad King from power. There actually was some evidence backing Varys' theory. Harrenhal belonged to House Whent at the time, but even these nobles couldn't have had the gold to fund a tourney of this size. The tourney at Harrenhal was the greatest ever. Some believe Rhaegar gave Oswell Whent of the Kingsguard the funds to give to his brother, Lord Whent. They believed this because right after Oswell visited his brother, the massive tourney was announced. If Rhaegar was planning to remove his father from the throne, many would support him. Half the court were already Rhaegar's men because of how talented he was at pretty much everything, and many were growing tired of the Mad King's erratic antics. To prevent a council from being held, the Mad King decided to attend the tourney himself, something no one could have foreseen, since he hadn't left the Red Keep in years out of fear and paranoia. Rhaegar was not a man who enjoyed violence or fighting. Barristan Selmy claims he didn't find joy in anything really, but if he were to take his father down, I'm sure he would want it to be as peaceful as possible. The Mad King never had a good relationship with his son, and always feared he planned on betraying him for the crown. But Rhaegar never made a move. He may have still had some love or respect for his crazy father, but he likely thought it would be best just to wait out until his father's death. Starting a war with the Mad King would mean countless casualties. Aerys never valued the life of his subjects. Years later, when Robert's rebellion came knocking at his door, he planned to burn all of King's Landing down, killing 500,000 innocent people, just so Robert wouldn't have his seat to rule from. Jaime obviously intervened, saving the day by killing the man he swore to protect. But things could have gone very differently if Jaime got his way and was allowed to participate in the rebellion. A year after the tourney at Harrenhal, when Jaime was 16, Rhaegar disappeared with Lyanna Stark, along with his close friends, including Sir Arthur Dayne and Oswell Whent. They traveled to Dorne, where they would stay and guard over Lyanna at the Tower of Joy. The Mad King ordered Lord Commander Gerald Hightower to look for his son, and he found him, but he would never return to King's Landing. Instead, Gerald decided to stay with his other sworn brothers of the Kingsguard in Dorne. It would be Rhaegar to return and decide to lead the Targaryen army against the rebels. Jaime was now 17 at this point in the story, and he was never permitted to join in the fight against Robert Baratheon. Like always, he was forced to stay by the Mad King's side, while Varys whispered in the king's ear, worsening his paranoia. The day had been windy when he said farewell to Rhaegar in the yard of the Red Keep. The prince had donned his night-black armor with the 3-headed dragon picked out in rubies on his breastplate. "Your Grace," Jaime pleaded, "let Dory stay to guard the king this once, or Sir Barristan. Their cloaks are as white as mine." Prince Rhaegar shook his head. "My royal sire fears your father more than he does our cousin Robert. He wants you close, so Lord Tywin cannot harm him. I dare not take that crutch away from him at such an hour." Jaime's anger had risen up in his throat. "I am not a crutch. I am a knight of the Kingsguard." "Then guard the king," Sir John Dory snapped at him. "When you don that cloak, you promise to obey." Rhaegar had put his hand on Jaime's shoulder. When this battle's done, I mean to call a council. Changes will be made. I meant to do it long ago, but, well, it does no good to speak of roads not taken. We shall talk when I return. He never would return, thanks to Robert Baratheon and his Warhammer. But this is some pretty significant character development for Rhaegar. George Martin makes it clear that Rhaegar did intend on removing his father from power to spare the realm from his madness, but backed out before taking any action. Rhaegar would have been the greatest king in the Seven Kingdoms, but his sense of duty possibly stopped him from opposing his own father. He had always been a logical character, which really made the whole running off with Lyanna moment so out of left field. He had a deep belief in prophecy, so being with her may have been the right path in his eyes. The Mad King prevented Jaime from being a hero, and after killing Aerys, Jaime's chance of experiencing honor and glory was gone forever. Almost 20 years later, he's still remembered as the treacherous Kingslayer, so he's embraced the villain role that everyone forced on him. Even though deep down he still has dreams of redeeming himself and being seen as an honorable knight. After he'd killed the Mad King, Rhaegar's wife and children were next, at the orders of his father Tywin. Jaime didn't know that Rhaegar's innocent family would be brutally killed, and this tarnished the Lannisters' reputation even further. All these events during Robert's rebellion have stuck with Jaime all these years, and he's still dealing with the guilt of not saving Ilya Martell and her 2 young children. In the 3rd book, A Storm of Swords, we finally get some chapters in the point of view of Jaime, so we get to see the internal struggle and begin to empathize with this anti-hero, who we saw as a villain in the story up until this point. After Catelyn Stark let him go in hopes he can free her daughters, Jaime has a dream about the men he looked up to and trained him that are now long dead after the rebellion. The visors of their helms were closed, but Jaime Lannister did not need to look upon their faces to know them. 5 had been his brothers, Oswell Went and John Darry, Lewin Martell, a Prince of Dorne, the White Bull, Gerald Hightower, Sir Arthur Dayne, Sword of the Morning, and beside them, crowned in the mist and grief, with his long hair streaming behind him, rode Rhaegar Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone and the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. In this dream, his heroes were judging him for his past actions. "We all swore oaths," said Arthur Dayne, so sadly. The shades dismounted from their ghostly horses. When they drew their longswords, it made not a sound. "He was going to burn the city," Jaime said, "to leave Robert only ashes." "He was your king," said Darry. "You swore to keep him safe," said Went. "And the children, them as well," said Prince Lewin. "Prince Rhaegar burned with a cold light, now white, now red, now dark. I left my wife and children in your hands." "I never thought he'd hurt them." Jaime's sword was burning less brightly now. "I was with the king." "Killing the king," said Sir Arthur. "Cutting his throat," said Prince Lewin. "The king you had sworn to die for," said the White Bull. If things had gone Jaime's way, he would have likely died during the Battle of the Trident, the same battle where Robert killed Rhaegar and his fellow rebels killed Lewin Martell and Jonathan Dorry, as well as severely injuring Barristan Selmy. Jaime may have been the only Kingsguard member willing to kill the Mad King, since he had been the most bothered by his actions. The rest would never break their oath. His brothers had to continually remind him to know his duty. Hopefully, Jaime's redemption arc in the upcoming books is more fulfilling than it was in the final season of Game of Thrones. He didn't really do much against the White Walker army, and ended up returning to Cersei after the battle. Pretty weak, if you ask me. It seemed like he was being set up to have a vital role in the story's conclusion, so let's see if things are handled any differently in A Dream of Spring. Thanks for watching, guys.